And we're back with Congressman James Clyburn. Congressman, this Facebook whistleblower has gotten a tremendous amount of attention this week. Is it time to rethink Section 230? Is it time to rethink the immunity that social media platforms have been provided?
Absolutely. You know, this whole notion that we ought not have regulations, that is just crazy stuff. You are regulated in your business. I'm regulated in mine. There are rules that we have to live by based upon what's the best for society. And we made a tremendous mistake, I believe, very strongly. Now, you and I probably won't agree on this because my own daughter, who served about 9 years on the Federal Communications Commission, disagreed with me on this, and that's fine. But I think we made a big mistake when we got rid of the fairness doctrine. I really believe that what we have allowed people to do is weaponize the airwaves in such a way that it's driving people apart. And to have any entity as influential as we know social media to be without any kind of constraints, that's a real big problem. We govern people's conduct with speech in person. So why don't we govern their conduct over the airwaves? That's a problem that we have created for ourselves. And I think we made a big mistake with the Federal Communications Commission, and we're making the same big mistake with social media.
Well, I actually think that bombastic personalities have driven us into this polarization ditch. You're right. I do question whether the fairness doctrine is the way to solve it. But the reason I'm so closely paying attention to Facebook is that this is much more subtle. You've got people going into Facebook's news feed each and every day and being fed information, not recognizing that Facebook's got your number. They want to stir the pot. They want to pit us against one another. And they want you to keep coming back for more information. When you turn on Fox News, when you turn on a cable outlet, I think you know what you're getting. I'm afraid that people don't recognize what they're being fed by Facebook.
I think you're right about that. It's a much more complicated issue than I just made it. And I think you put your finger right on it. The subtleties are there. You wake up and don't know exactly why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And that is what is so bad about what is going on with Facebook. And to see this Instagram or whatever it is that seems to be running especially young women. This stuff has got to stop. When people don't know what's happening to them, we ought to govern the people who got some ways to create that phenomenon.
Congressman Robert Kagan recently published an essay in the Washington Post. I'll bet you saw it. The headline was, "Our constitutional crisis is already here." Even if you didn't read the essay, are we now in the midst of a constitutional crisis?
I did glance through that essay, and I labored for a while on the headline because I have been saying for some time now, I remember back in 2018, the night before his State of the Union address, I said to Don Lemon that 45 was not intending to give up the office. I said it then. I was chastised severely by a lot of people for having said it because I compared him that night to Mussolini. And now I'm seeing that a lot of people are comparing him to Mussolini. In fact, the night he came came back to the White House from the hospital with COVID-19 and went on the Truman balcony. He was referred to the next morning by one talking head as assuming a Mussolini stance. So yes, we are already in a constitutional crisis. We just have not broken ourselves yet. But if we don't do things like get Facebook under control and all other social media, if we won't do things like get this country's debts paid, stop using all kinds of processes to muddle up the works of the country. That is a big, big problem. Now, I tell people all the time, if I didn't know history as well as I do, and I don't know 1/10 of what I should know, I might not be concerned about this. But I've studied what happened in Germany after a free election. Hitler was absolutely popular, elected as chancellor, and set out to discredit the institutions of a great country and became a dictator. This man was elected president and set out to bring discredit on the institutions, referring to the media, or the press, if you please, as the enemy of the people. That's bad stuff. And that stuff is ruining us. January 6th was a trial run. We had better do something about it and do it quickly.
So one of my observations is to say that it's not all tied to one personality, right? I mean, 74, 75
Absolutely
million.
not.
So even if he's not a candidate in 2024, the forces that would vote for him are still among us. What is it we need to say to all of them?
It's not just what we say, it is what we do. That's why I think we have to start solving problems rather than creating them. That's why I say, people I talk to now, they seem to think that you really make it in this country when you can create a good headline. How many hits you get for some smart aleck comment you made, rather than creating ways that we make headway for the American people. We've got to solve the problems. We should not have health care not sufficient in rural communities. We ought not have education insufficient in communities of color. We've got to make the greatness of the society accessible and affordable by all of its citizens. That's the pledge I made to the people that I represent way back yonder, and I try to keep that pledge. That's why I came up with that 10, 20, 30 formula, so that we can target resources where they are needed, rather than keep giving things to people because they've got merit. You know, it's like Jim Folsom, big Jim Folsom, not the young Jim Folsom, who said one time, I believe in merit. The Alabama merit system, my friends got more merit than my enemies. That's what we're doing here.
There was a book that was written after the 2016 cycle by Ben Bradley Jr., the son of, and it was called The Forgotten, and it was about Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. I'm a Pennsylvanian lifelong, and it's about one county in the northeastern part of the state where arguably it tipped the balance of power for Donald Trump. My point is this: there are a lot of white working class folks who think they're now getting the short end, that in a world of changing demographics and jobs being outsourced and the world, as Tom Friedman says, gone flat, that they come out on the short end of the stick. We need to reach them. And as you say, do things for them. Those are, that's my input, my 2 cents.
I agree with that. But it's not just white. The same thing goes with black. The best example I could give you, if you look at what happened coming out of the Great Depression, everybody says that Franklin Roosevelt did this great job bringing us out of the Great Depression. Social Security got so many seniors out of poverty. Well, the fact of the matter is, when Social Security went in place, it did not cover domestic workers. Who were the domestic workers? They were black folks in the South. It did not cover farm workers. Who were the farm workers? The people who had just come off the farms, the plantations here in the South. We created these pockets of poverty throughout the South, and what we are doing now is about to do the same thing with this recovery package. That's why I've been trying to get my folks to understand. There's a big difference in Medicaid and Medicare, because Medicare is for everybody, wealthy alike. Medicaid, low-income people. So we cannot do the same today with this problem that we did back in the 1930s. That's why every time somebody tells me that Joe Biden is going to be another FDR, I say, I hope not.
Congressman, what do you most want to know about January 6th?
The most I want to know is who paid for it. Follow the money. Find it and follow it. I don't care about who came here. It can be the Boogaloo Boys or whoever they are. Somebody financed it. And that's how you solve the problem. Find out who paid for it.
And you think financed with the intent of stopping the Congress from certifying the vote and enabling the House of Representatives to then call the shot?
Absolutely. Everything on January 6th was about getting rid of a fair, unfettered election. Probably, I know the fair's in my lifetime. I've never seen an election with so much participation, so many guardrails, and yielding a result that is being challenged by those who would much rather an autocracy than a democracy.
You know that many states, under the guise of strengthening ballot security, have changed their voter laws. Is there a realistic process of there being some type of Voting Rights Act implemented by the Congress before the midterm election?
If we don't, we can kiss democracy goodbye. Because remember, this is not just about whether or not black folks vote. Look at what they did in Georgia and what they're attempting to do in Texas. It's about nullifying the results of an election if you don't like the outcome. And that is what is at stake here. Whether or not we allow Martin Luther King Jr.'s great speech, everybody talk about I have a dream. It wasn't about a dream. It was about interposition and nullification. That's the way he concluded that speech. I'm going back to the South, where these governors have interposition and nullification dripping from their lips. That's what he was talking about. It is here. We are attempting for the first time in my 80 plus years to see nullification on steroids.
Final question. What's the good news? I feel like we've bummed everybody out.
Well, the good news is that January 6th came and went without success. It'll be better news if we find the source and do what is necessary for it to never happen again. But you cannot do that with partisanship. We've got to come together in a bipartisan way and root out these causes and make sure that we put guardrails in place that will not allow it to happen again.
Congressman, thank you so much. Next time, don't hold back. Next time, tell us what you really think, okay?
Do that.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you very much for having me.